Welcome to the Nerd Party.
Welcome back to Houselights, specifically the House of Emmerich, where we are looking at the works of Roland Emmerich, legendary action big budget director who delivered so many treasured memories to those of us who lived through the 1990s and those who discovered things on video afterward. Here we are. Are you ready to regenerate your love for Jean-Claude Van Damme's action movie career? I hope so, because we are looking this week at 1992's Universal Soldier, which gives me great pleasure to welcome to the squad Mr. Darren Moser, regenerated from the Battle of Helm's Deep, and Sergeant Darren Moser, who maintains the kid-friendly battle truck transformathon thingy that maybe could have been merchandise had this been a PG-13 movie. Gentlemen, are you ready to tackle the mission and dissect the resurrected soldiers of Universal Soldier?
I'm ready. I am so ready. I got a bucket of ice.
Yes.
Bucket
of ice.
Rated R really doesn't stop the toy train. If we look at RoboCop, there were many a toy and a cartoon and many other things. So this totally could have been a toy line.
That's true. We love to
put them in ice and they change color. It totally would have had one of those chemical things. You put your action figures in ice and the heat, the cold changes it. I had some Matchbox cars like that.
I just don't want an anatomically correct Jean-Claude Van Damme. That's I just don't want that.
Why does all his clothes come off on this doll? I don't get it.
It was actually a hallmark. Before we get into the everything, I was a huge Jean-Claude Van Damme fan, the way any sane, rational young man was back in the late 80s and early 90s. If you put Jean-Claude Van Damme in front of it, it was like, there's at least going to be some fighting. I know there's going to be some fight scenes here and somebody's going to do the splits. I'm on board for this. The downside being, as you're alluding to the nudity, I believe I have seen Jean-Claude Van Damme's naked posterior almost as many times as my own somehow. And I don't know how I feel about that. But how do you guys feel about Universal Soldier? That's what we're here to discuss. I'm the only one old enough to have seen this in the movie theater. We know that. And I have a story that scarred me for life, having to do with it, where I had to see it twice in 1 week because I saw it one time, didn't care for it, and then grew up in a small town. And when my friend was visiting, he was like, "Oh, well, I didn't see it." I said, "But I did." And he said, "There's nothing else to do where you live." I said, "That's a fair point. I guess I'm going to see this again." And so I saw it twice. I helped contribute to its $95 million box office. But I need to know, Tristan, was how many times did your father show this to you? Or was this verboten in the Riddell family playlist?
This was not verboten, but it was something that my dad never really got into. I mean, I've seen tons of Seagal and Schwarzenegger and Stallone and Jean-Claude Van Damme. Like, I remember, Kickboxer and Bloodsport and things like that. Like, we would watch those. Like, we would watch the TV cuts, of Jean-Claude Van Damme a lot. But Universal Soldier never really. What was it? Time Cop.
Time Cop was the watershed moment. It was all downhill after that. Yeah.
Yeah, like that was when he had the mullet, right?
One of the times, yes.
That one. Like, my dad was just like, now see here, Tristan. This is I'm going to sit you down for this one, okay? So he would start explaining it to me.
He was a Street Fighter too, right?
That was definitely in the downward slope of his career. Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
Yeah. Universal Soldier never really broke into the Riddell household family favorites category, the shelf, as it were. So this was actually my first time seeing it all the way through. I remember seeing bits and pieces here and there, when it would pop up at 2 a.m. on TNT. But no, this is my first time from beginning to end.
Oh, delightful. Darren, I know this is not your first time beginning to end, but how many years has it been since the first time you saw Universal Soldier?
It has been a while. This was definitely a blockbuster rental. it's funny because looking, back through it, I would have sworn that the cover for this is the cover that's like one of the sequels where it has like kind of a circle around it. That's the more known poster, but that's not actually the poster for this one. I'm like, oh, it's not. Okay, I would have put money. If we were on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire and they're like, what movie is this poster? I would have lost. But no, this was, yeah, definitely, I mean, you guys know me. I was living in the sci-fi / fantasy. It should have been 2 segments, but it was always 1 segment of Blockbuster every week, checking out cool new stuff. And yeah, that's definitely where I picked up on Universal Soldier. Probably around high school, I would have to guess. I can't put a date to it, but yeah. So it definitely, I don't own it. It's not on my roster, but it was fun getting to revisit it and seeing if it kind of held up to that little bit of nostalgia memory.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a movie of its time. There are a whole lot of hallmarks of its time. But the first question, the most important question, is we have a movie that deals with a lot of, there's a time jump in the beginning. There's, a lot of action that is put into this. There's a lot of fake military mumbo jumbo put into it. There's a sci-fi angle and everything like that. My question is, this is a director coming second in a row to a novel science fiction concept with a question mark after it, because there's undoubtedly the DNA of RoboCop in here. And some people at the time compared it to Terminator 2, which I consider something of a puzzler. But we all agreed that, Moon 44, Tristan, was a bit of a challenging script. Do you find a director who is helping shape a script to the best that it can be here? Or do you find somebody who pulled a script off the shelf and said, we'll add a couple of funny lines for Jean-Claude and go?
After reading, this is so weird, but like after reading, what they went through to get it made, Emmerich was just like, yeah, I want Devlin on this one. Am I saying that right? Right?
Yeah.
Like
Dean Devlin. Yep.
Yeah, I want Dean Devlin on this one. I want him to do it. This is the type of movie that definitely feels like I'm not trying to be effusive with praise preemptively and say like Emmerich is some sort of auteur, but this definitely feels like a salvage mission where the concept is really interesting. It's a great sci-fi concept. It's a really great sci-fi concept of, he died in Nam, resurrected to be used as a super soldier later in life, like later on in a different era. He's a man out of time. The Vietnam era, the Vietnam vet is very much defined in cinema as PTSD. Like, my God, like the amount of movies that we have about Vietnam vets going through PTSD dwarfs anything that we have in reference to any other war or any other veteran going through PTSD. And so you mix that with a sci-fi concept of, coming back and, it has it has a horrible introduction followed by a really great, what kind of term am I looking for? Like where like rising action. Like you have
rising action.
You have a horrible introduction followed by a really great rising action. And so it definitely feels like an artist is trying to fight a studio system. As I was watching this, I kept feeling like Emmerich had an idea in his head on what he wanted to do and yet had a lot of restraint. And I think previously, like there was like 1 or 2 different directors who wanted to make this movie and were like, you know what, you're not giving me enough money. You're not letting me do what I want to do. So I'm out. And Emmerich's just like, hey, I can do it. And so this long answer short, too late, I know. I feel like Emmerich he has an idea in his head, but he's being kind of held back by the studio system and by producers and just the mechanics of cinema.
Do you feel the same way, Darren, or do you feel that this is somebody still struggling with source material?
No, I mean I agree with Tristan. It does feel like the fact that it's being rewritten is not a shock to me. Like, it definitely feels like there was that nugget of a good idea. And I think you see that you can definitely tell what scenes were like bangers and what scenes were like, well, we have to get from A to B, so let's put something here. Like the dam. That scene is probably the best sequence in the entire movie, from establishing what's going on to showing how the Universal Soldier program works. That is like the core. And then after that, it's like, okay, well, we have to get to the part where the girl sees it and then she's in trouble. And then we have to have the moment that, Van Damme goes off the rails, and then somehow they're at a motel and we start to kind of spiral, as far as the big set pieces. But I will say, though, the thing I remembered the most from all the times I've watched it is the truck. The truck was my favorite thing. I still don't quite know how it could collapse and uncollapse and not squish everything that's inside, but I didn't care. It didn't matter. It could be a TARDIS inside for all I cared. But the fact that this thing it comes out of like a super guppy, like they deploy it out of a plane. And then as it's driving down the road, I swear the thing takes up 2 lanes. It's so big.
It is.
And it's, got a great set piece. It does a lot of cool stuff. So I always loved the mobile command unit. That was my favorite.
Did you guys ever see Spice World, the Spice Girls movie?
Of course. I saw that in theaters.
Of course you did. Okay. It's amazing. If you haven't seen it, everyone needs to watch it. But the the first thing I thought of, like, Darren, when you mentioned the truck and how you're just like, how on earth does that collapse? It has to be like a TARDIS. It's got to be bigger on the inside. I love how in the Spice World movie, the first thing I thought of was Spice World, because they have the British the Union Jack bus, and it's clearly just the size of a double-decker bus, but when you get inside, it's gigantic.
It's like a mansion.
Way bigger than it could ever be. And I love how they don't even address it. They don't even hand wave it. It's just, that's the movie
there,
and it's beautiful.
It's there. Now, I mean, the thing is, though, Darren, by pointing to the truck, and Tristan, your point about it being, that sort of piece of amazing movie tech, would you consider, Darren, this an earmark? Because again, we made reference during Moon 44. It's not like we haven't seen these movies now that we're getting into. Like, this is familiar territory for anybody who was born before the 90s, even slightly. Like, you were going to encounter these movies at some point, even if it wasn't in the theater. Do you see elements like that? Is that the work of Roland Emmerich and his partner, Dean Devlin? Are we seeing certain things take shape? The obsession with cool tech, the way action sequences are staged, an obsession with military pseudo jargon that doesn't really exist. And if you really think about it for a second, you're like, they really said nothing of value there. Like, do you see that DNA starting to come together for Emmerich and Devlin?
No, I definitely think so. I'm actually really glad that we watched Moon 44 last week, and seeing this as a stepping stone. I'm not saying it's a good movie.
I'm totally messing with you.
But I love the fact that we can look at it in comparison and see, okay, here is him taking the best parts of Moon 44 and, like you said, like, building a world. Like, he definitely knows how to build a world, whether or not all the pieces connect. Like, there's the there's the flashback of the Vietnam War, and there's the motel. The motel is probably the weakest point of the entire thing, but I will say I mentioned this when we were talking about Moon 44 with like the helicopters and the world, that it's really important that you set your rules in sci-fi and then you stick to them. Because otherwise you don't know as a viewer what's going to happen and what the stakes are. And I think in Universal Soldier, you have, the regen factor, you have the needing to cool down with ice, you have, the programming. And like, I think that stuff he aces. He does really well. Like you said, there's that core concept of a universal soldier that's really intriguing, but it gives us a good third of a movie, probably, of like that really good stuff, and then some other pieces.
It definitely gives some other pieces, that much is sure. But speaking of, that core element and getting to what you were talking about, Tristan, with the rising action, and you referenced the sort of difficult opening to get past, because I think that there's definitely budget limitations, I guess you could say, because it's very obviously shot on a soundstage. It's not really lit like the outdoors when they're in the jungle and stuff like that.
Actually,
if that was outdoors, you're going to blow my mind.
It was.
You're kidding me. Then that is the most poorly lit outdoor stuff I've seen in a very long time.
How crazy is that? Because I thought the same exact thing. I was like, this is so poorly done. This is crazy. Like, I got to find out where they shot it. They shot it on a golf course.
Okay. All right.
So it was outdoors.
That's a heck of a golf course.
But I
think they brought in some plants. But yeah, they have like two angles to shoot to make it look like the jungle. It's very guerrilla.
But that's what's crazy is that like they shot it on a golf course to shoot outside, and they brought in obviously tons of plants, and they set up the huts, but they shot it so narrow that it looks exactly like a studio shoot.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, use the space. Like, why shoot it outside? Like, why shoot it outdoors? Unless it was cheaper than renting a studio.
Maybe it was, or maybe it was. I mean, honestly, maybe it was just a shortcoming on the part of the cinematographer. Now, that's not to say that he didn't do other things, because my recollection of Stargate and Independence Day was that they shot the outdoor stuff quite well during those movies. So, obviously it's sort of a one-time thing. But in terms of the structure of the film, especially coming at it this time, I think it's a terrible opening. I think that a stronger opening for the film is to have them show up, go to the thing, have a flash of what Van Damme sees, and then spend the rest of the movie unspooling the mystery of what's flashing in his brain, as opposed to opening with that thing and clearly establishing, basically they set a stopwatch with that opening where it's like, okay, well, one of them's going to, Lundgren's the bad guy and he's going to go off the rails at one point, and Van Damme obviously is going to be the good guy and he's going to remember everything.
That is such a true statement. Like, this movie could have been vastly improved by editing, by just like flipping the script, just like moving things around. Absolutely. Like, you could start like the Damme sequence, start it like a Bond film.
Yeah.
Start it with a big set
Start
piece.
with your strongest set.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like bring in the audience, like it adds some mystery to it, where like, I love it when the guy said is like you're sitting them, you're setting them down 1.5 miles away. We only got 10 minutes.
Right.
Like it, and then like, boom, like they're there. And like you're seeing the guy go down the dam, like on the rope. Like, there's so many practical stunts with that too. I think that we really got to give this movie some praise in that respect. Mm-hmm. Is that during that dam sequence, there's a lot of practical stunt work that you just don't really see that much anymore. And
it's the best dam sequence.
The best dam sequence ever. This was such a good sequence, and like, you add some mystery to it, you add some intrigue instead of just like laying it out in front of you. That really would have elevated the movie, I think, a great deal. But the thing is, though, this movie made money.
It did.
It made almost $100 million, which back in the day, number one, it more than tripled its budget. I mean,
wasn't it like 23 million, something like that?
Yeah, it was 23 million, and made, so they got a tremendous return on investment. Audiences obviously responded in some way to it.
It made a ton more sequels.
Well, we'll get to that in a couple of minutes, because I mean,
I'm not saying those are good. I'm just saying
let's go straight into it
enough that they're like, hey, let's keep trying to do this.
But let's go straight.
Cinematic universe that exists
with alternate timelines and everything. It's like the Halloween series.
It's exactly like Halloween. It's like, well, we're going to ignore that other movie that came first that we don't want to talk about. And
well, is there anything in this, Darren, as you watch it, where you say to yourself, you know what? yeah, this is a world that I like, that I want to come back to. I want to relive the world of Universal Soldier, not once, not twice, not thrice, but well, I believe it's 5 more times after this. Like, is this the sort of thing where like you would pin franchise hopes on this?
No, not at all. Like, really, they're all dead. Like, they're like, I don't see where you would take the story at all. But but to circle back to, what you were mentioning about the possible different opening, it made me think, who is our point of view? Like, is it the reporter? Is it Van Damme? Because of the opening we got, it's kind of Van Damme, but he also has no memory through like 80% of the movie. So yeah, if you had set it up instead of like, you see, it's kind of a reconstructed memory. Like, there's not all pieces there. And maybe some characters like, do it something where like their faces are like face blindness. Like, you can't tell who they are. And so it's kind of piecing together. And so we don't know that, Lundgren was in the past and was the one who did it. And then when that hammer falls in Act 2 and we realize, oh my gosh, the guy he's serving next to is the guy who basically killed him. That's the moment to reveal that. So stick with the reporter in the beginning. Keep the intrigue of like, who are these guys? Who are they? What are they? Where did they? No, a little RoboCop there. But yeah, it's, who is he? What is he?
Apparently, what I think something that was interesting was that originally they shot at a specific way where the U.S. military was much eviler.
Oh, that's right. I did read that.
Yeah, in what they were. So apparently the Damme situation, the terrorist Damme situation, was orchestrated by that general or sergeant or whatever he was, colonel, to justify the Universal Soldier program. Like they were hired bad guys in order, like, just to give the Universal Soldier something to do.
Made terror in order. It's like Syndrome from Incredibles. It's like, make a bad situation to justify my budget.
And something I think like later in the movie, like whenever, I think at the motel, like he told all the soldiers to kill all the witnesses, and so they just made like this wing, like of the military so evil. And I think at the time they're like, no one's going to believe that the military can do this kind of evil act.
Well, because like, when did Top Gun come out? That was
86. Top Gun was 86. This was 92.
Yeah, so you're like on a rise of good military.
Well, the
flicks.
America was also feeling very good about the military after the first Gulf War, and they weren't very much of a taste of looking at, basically after 91. It was okay. It was that was the moment to be like, okay, we're moving past the Vietnam thing now. We've sort of wallowed for a little bit. I'm not being dismissive of anybody that went through anything with that statement. I'm saying like that there was sort of like a cultural shift where it went very pro-military all the time under any circumstances around that time. Again, I'm not assessing a value judgment. I'm saying that's simply the way that the cultural tone shifted. I was absolutely there. I witnessed it. I know what happened.
You were absolutely right. I think you articulated it well. Like in 91, like post Desert Storm, it was such a huge success in the eyes of the media, of the zeitgeist, of pop culture. It was very much like rah, we're winners again. We lost Vietnam, but we won this one. We won in the Middle East. And so we're going to reflect that. Now, obviously we have a different tone now culturally. We've had several decades. Speaking of which, oh my gosh, it's amazing because being, in the year 2024, we think about how far away Vietnam was. And when you're watching a movie that's set in 1992, it's not that far. Like 92 to Vietnam isn't really that much time.
It's like, what,
when you think about it.
20-ish years.
Yeah, the war, was wrapping up in the early 70s. So it was about 2 decades. Yeah.
Right.
Give or take a few years here or there.
That's like just us to 9/11, roughly.
Right. Exactly. Mm-hmm. And that bends the mind to me when you think about that. When you think about the timing aspect of it. And I don't really have anything thoughtful to say other than that's crazy to me.
Well, I mean, the thing is with the time difference and stuff like that, something that maybe it's because we're so far away from Vietnam now that this very much weighs in my mind. But I know that at the time, Darren, it weighed in my mind. Listen, we're dealing with the same sort of RoboCop principle. I have to accept that Dr. Frankenstein technology is now within our grasp and they could resurrect these guys in the first place. But do you think it would have been better to have had it be some sort of nondescript Central American conflict, sort of like Predator, instead of saying these guys died in Vietnam and then they're back 20 years later? Instead, say they were in a mission in a jungle location somewhere 3 or 4 years prior, and they were part of like an elite team. Like, that's why you never knew about the conflict in specific. That's why they could pull these guys without anybody missing them.
Yeah, I will say one of the biggest stretches of the plot is the fact that it's been 20 years. So like they died, and it's not like, oh, and then we brought them back to life. It's like, but did you bring them back and then freeze them for 20 years? Just that much of a gap really surprised me. So yeah, I think, Central America, whatever you make it, do it kind of like RoboCop, where it's been successful in the 3 missions they've had there, but now we want to bring it into America, and we got to get the sign off from the big brass to let it be amongst our, civilians. So let's use the situation of the dam, and this is the perfect time to deploy. I feel like I'm describing exactly another plot of another movie. I can't remember what that movie is, but it's a very, it's very done.
It's a good movie, but I mean, that also gets to, we have these 2 characters who kill each other and then are brought back as squad members, which seems like a dicey thing to try to do anyway. Like, it's sort of like, boy, these guys, they didn't get along. Let's bring them both back. It seems like you'd be like, well, let's choose one of them.
20 years later, it's like, oh, yeah, number 13 and number 44, they made it through the program and didn't die. Because I'm sure there were other examples that they tried that didn't make it. So
sure.
I can buy that they don't have that intrinsic knowledge of the situation of their death. But,
okay.
But yes, in the big grander scheme, that doesn't sound like a good idea.
Well, additionally, I would say that maybe you're looking at the 2 dead guys, and one of them has a necklace made of ears that he carved off of a bunch of slaughtered civilians. Maybe you'd be like, it seems like this one might be a troublemaker. Maybe we're not going to bring him back, but
that's a military thing of the hubris of. No, but I mean, they do that a lot in movies. Like the fact that when Jean-Claude, isn't responding, and he's like, I think we should take him out of circulation. He's like, no, he's fine. I'm like, how many times have we seen that? When if you just listen to the tech and done as he suggests, run a diagnostic, run a level 3 diagnostic for all I care, it would have been different.
So, but at the core, you have these 2 characters who start off killing each other and then they're brought back. Key to this movie is going to be whether you buy the antagonist-protagonist chemistry. It's necessary. Let's go to the classic Die Hard, Hans Gruber and John McClane. They got to work so that when they finally have their like key scenes together, that chemistry is there and you buy it. Like however you get it, by hook or by crook, it happens. Movie magic. Tristan, do you feel any of that type of energy between Dolph Lundgren and Jean-Claude Van Damme?
No, I don't. It's interesting because apparently Lundgren and Van Damme became really good friends during this production. Like they became fast friends, and which is really great to hear. I love that. I'm a sucker for that. Even though I don't follow entertainment news, and when I say entertainment news, I mean like stuff that you read in People magazine. But I love hearing that when people are like, oh yeah, we came with best of friends. We have dinner every Thursday. I love that kind of stuff. But that chemistry does not come across on scene because I think that they're just not great actors. I feel like Van Damme doesn't have that much to work with. I myself am a Van Damme fan. And if you are a Van Damme fan and you haven't seen JCVD, the movie JCVD, you absolute
masterpiece of a film. Absolutely brilliant.
Brilliant movie, and just it shows what Jean-Claude Van Damme actually can do. It's a great example of someone who has been pigeonholed into a situation. Anyway, Dolph Lundgren is not a good actor. I'm sorry, he's just not. He's not. I mean, like, there's a lot of times when he can be very entertaining.
He's hired for his jawline.
He looks magnificent. He has an amazing presence, but he's kind of, the less lines you give him, the better. And that's why he works so much in Rocky. Anyway, but the chemistry just isn't there. And I think there was, speaking of which, of them being friends, there was something I read. It doesn't blow my mind because this kind of crap happens all the time, but they got into a fake fight outside of Cannes, in order to drum up publicity for the movie. It's so depressing when you hear crap like that.
It's dumb, especially because you attach, and I know how this is going to sound, but you attach such, like the Cannes Film Festival always had like sort of like a mystique put around it when I was growing up, where it was like, oh, it's the Cannes Film Festival. Oh, this movie won the Palme d'Or at the Cannes Film Festival. Oh, it's an official competition. Yeah, and they're also promoting Universal Soldier. And I'm like, okay, guys, let's maybe take a little bit of the shine off of this brass for a second, okay? Because good Lord, like, let's just be honest. A bunch of people descend on a French town because they can expense account it, and they try to sell a bunch of movies to each other. And a bunch of people are terrible, and a bunch of people are making careers out of it. Okay, fine. But given the fact that this had, Carol Co., the production company behind it, was on the ropes. They pinned everything on this movie to sort of like get them through their financial troubles. And the movie does do well. Especially when you bring in like the entire worldwide box office, which at the time, I can tell you in 1992, American press and audiences did not care much about what the movie made outside of the United States. It was not a thing we even thought about. It's still something
the Chinese market. Yeah, the Chinese market was not what it is today.
Well, it's also, it's so strange. It's so strange. But there are obviously things that people latched onto. I look at it and I try to find some joy in the supporting cast, because we see Leon Rippey come back. He was in Moon 44. And we see some sort of mainstays. An actor named Robert Treber he's the owner of he's the manager of the motel. That guy's in everything. Like,
best part of the movie. Yeah. Best part of the movie. I love Robert Treber so much.
20% on top of that. Oh, you got some more money in that wallet of yours? Yeah.
Hercules and Xena fans know him very much as a beloved character. So it was very fun to see him pop up.
And the aforementioned, we've talked about him, earlier in the episode, Colonel Perry, the guy who's basically heading the program. Ed O'Ross is one of those guys where you see him and you're like, oh yeah, that guy. Right. He has, I would say he has, in my opinion, the best type of Hollywood career, because the guy gets work and he doesn't need to worry about whether he's going to be top billing or negotiate for anything. And nobody's ever going to blame this guy for the film tanking. He could be in the worst movie on earth and he will be back in the next movie 6 months from now. I always love seeing the guy. And he actually has a pretty good range and everything, but Jerry Orbach, the esteemed Jerry Orbach, appears in this. And Darren, I want to ask you, was that as much of a shock for you as it was for me the first time I saw it, where I was like, oh, it's Lumiere. He's in this. And,
really, you're going to make a Lumiere reference before you make a Law and Order reference?
Yeah. Come on. He's a singing French candlestick, right? But, all that to say, do you think that Emmerich does a good job of, while his two leads, I think we can all say, don't have the best chemistry in the world on screen in this film, do you think that the supporting cast is basically, they're clearly communicated to? They're filling their roles right. The director has to give them the supporting direction. Do you think that this is a director who manages this larger cast with a bunch of, Hollywood mainstays. Does he pass the test here?
I think he does. It's interesting. I feel that Emmerich's career is a sequence of stair steps. We're still a movie or two away from Independence Day, the big one. But this is a step forward. It's a step up from Moon 44. It's at least showing that he can, pull something together. It'd be interesting to see with Stargate if he was as much salvaging it versus birthing it. I'm not sure. I haven't looked into the details on that, if he was more involved in the story from the beginning. But no, I think he definitely shows, that he can do a decent movie. And I was looking at this and Stargate, and his movies always make money. Like, they're making money. They're doubling or tripling their budgets. Like, it's not crazy blockbuster money until Independence Day, but it gets there. So yeah, it's different than maybe some of the other directors we've covered, where we've looked at them and we've been like, why did they give you this? Because we didn't see anything that told us you were capable of that. But I feel that, Universal Soldier, in the performances he's getting for what it is, it's a step in the right direction.
Now, in terms of the step in the right direction, I think obviously we're going for some stuff that's more action-packed, bigger spectacle in his next two films, and then actually next three, because when we hit Godzilla, that's really the peak of 1990s spectacle, and has a whole interesting story about what it did to the film and movie release industry as a whole, actually. But, taking a look at that spectacle, Tristan, we always joke about the fact that we're very obsessed with like knowing where my place is and where I am in relation to different things. Do you think that this is a director who gets a handle on that? Now, obviously Moon 44 were like smaller budget, smaller production, reused stuff. We don't know where we are in the canyon. We have a big fight on a truck on somehow top of a cliff after it dries for a little while. We have the action sequences at a motel. We have the action sequence at like a road stop. Do you get the sense of somebody who's getting a better handle on establishing that sense of place, direction, and placement within the action? First
off, I want to thank you for a magnificent question. I think that's a great question. I think that was well articulated, and I think that was well executed. The answer is yes, I do. I really do. I really do. I think that was I think there's a huge jump in quality in terms of geography. I really do, because we talked about in Moon 44 how confusing and sometimes debilitating you almost felt like you were in a fugue state at certain times when you were watching the production. With this one, no, this one was very utilitarian when it came to they're in their car now, then they're outside the car, they're in the motel, they're outside the motel. Even when they were going through like room by room, like when he was busting down the balsa wood walls of the of the motel, like you knew where he was and you knew where everything was. And when the female lead played by Ali Walker, when she was going on to in the desert, like onto where the big collapsible truck was, like you knew where everything was. You knew how far away she was. It truly was much better than Moon 44. And I think for a sophomoric undertaking, you saw a huge promise, and he would get the most improved award when it came to cinematography and geography. And also, I just want to mention real quick, I have such a soft spot for Ali Walker in my heart.
Understandable.
I love her so much. I think she's so great. She's incredibly underrated. I think she is a great actress. She has a great presence, a magnificent voice, very distinct. And I think she killed it in this movie. I feel like she was, how do I phrase this without sounding like I'm pandering? I feel like
I think she's the most charismatic performer on screen.
Absolutely.
Like, you know, I made the reference to Jerry Orbach earlier, and Jerry Orbach, I think, is in our Malcolm McDowell sort of role in this one, where he's like, yeah, it's a check. Sure. I got to make a car payment. I'll show up for this. That's fine.
Absolutely.
Whereas
That's
Ali
yeah.
Walker is showing up and saying, okay, I'm going to make this count. I'm building my resume, because she had just, I think, she had just made her debut on daytime soap operas in like 1988. So just a few years before this. So I think you definitely get the sense of somebody who showed up and was like, okay, this has got to be able to go on my resume. I'm going to show up and I'm going to make it work. And I'm not trying to like take your point away from you. I'm just saying
you phrased it really well.
know.
I think that's absolutely true. That's exactly how I feel. And I just wanted to really touch on that, where I feel like Ali Walker was the right actress, wrong movie kind of situation.
I'd say that's fair. I'd say there were actually a number of, especially early 1990s films, where you could say that a lot about an actress who was in a movie and you were like, this is garbage, but she's really good. You know, like there's a whole laundry list of them, up to and including another movie that Ali Walker was in, Singles. So we go around here as we're, oh, I know. Oh no, I just bombed Gen X. One of your own turned on you, folks. That's me. But seriously, that movie's terrible. But, as we go around and, as we love to say, we're rounding third, I have to, because I'm me, ask you, Darren, about the music of Universal Soldier and whether this score is a Moon 44 or whether we've got a score that's a little bit more the voice of a film. Like, is this a soundtrack where, as we're talking about it now, you're like, yeah, that was pretty good? Or are you on the scale of what did it sound like again?
A little more on the what did it sound like, but I'm looking through Christopher Frank's list, and it looks like he did a lot of Babylon 5. Like he did Babylon 5, the beginning, a lot of Third Space, all the movies. And that doesn't surprise me, because this kind of feels like TV movie. Like it gets the job done, but it's TV movie. I think that nails it right there. Like it's kind of memorable, but it's not John Williams. Not that we need to scale everything by John Williams, because it'd be very difficult to do.
It's not John Williams.
Yeah. No. Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
I'm trying to think of a contemporary example where I don't know, man. Like it's just like, well, it's not a Scorsese film. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, I mean, he did. He did. He did work with Tangerine Dream for films outside of this. He did, some other stuff as well. But this in specific, I mean, Tristan, are you closer on the scale of forgettable to I'd listen to it while I'm working? Which end of the scale are you closer on?
I couldn't hum 2 bars from it. I have no idea. I'm thinking back, and I honestly cannot tell you anything.
Yeah, I'm firmly there. I think probably there was some snare drum in it because it had military, and that seems to be a nice fallback. So I'm willing to bet that somewhere in there's some snare drum. So as we, are past the music and everything, one last question on a technical side is obviously there's a different level of visual effects here than in Moon 44. Darren, is this a director who, when given this opportunity for more involved visual effects, and I mean, including explosions on set, including staging bullet wounds that heal and stuff like that, is this a director who handles these things very well? Do you see a director that has now established himself after this work as somebody who's going to be able to handle large scale effects?
No, I do. I think the best compliment is the fact that I don't really even remember effects. Like, yeah, you mentioned the bullet wound. I'm like, oh, that's right. There was that moment where it like disappeared. But I think of a lot of the car chases and the double bus fight, like pulling that off in a safe way that communicates the message of the story. like that, explosions are explosions. You put a couple cameras up, you make sure they're far enough away, you do it once, maybe you show it 3 or 4 times in a row in about 5 seconds to make it feel bigger. But no, there's a lot of, little things like we mentioned, running through the walls. I don't even think of them as special effects or as stunts. There's a lot more stunt heavy in this movie really than special effects. It's definitely that kind of an action movie. But no, I could see that paying off in Stargate for sure. This is right up Stargate's alley. Stargate's just a little bit different flavor and a little bit bigger, just kind of taking the notches a little bit higher. But yeah, watching this, I would feel confident with where that's going to go in 2 more years.
Tristan, you feel the same?
Yeah, I honestly do. Like I kind of echo what Darren said, that the special effects you don't really think about. Like they're 90s special effects, and there's nothing egregious about it. And I think it's very grounded. It's very like Darren, like you said, like there's explosion, there's fire. Like the wound on his chest, it heals in a really cool way. And there's nothing crazy. Like there's no the concept is more sci-fi than the material that we're seeing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that lends itself to forgive a lot. That forgive isn't the right word, but it allows you to
accept.
You're grounded in reality because of your execution, because the concept is sci-fi, not what you're seeing.
I mean, I think like the needle injection part where it comes through the guy's face, that could easily look really fake, but they do it really quick and then they cut away and they leave it just enough on screen for you to realize what happened. Because that's like a face process. I mean, anything on the face, we know what that looks like. We're going to know if something looks like, oh, you just added a little bit of something on his cheek and made it look. And I still remember that was, as a younger kid watching that was always my not least favorite, but like the part that kind of you remember after the fact and you're like, it's coming right out of his face. It's very well done.
So inevitably here, as we near the finish, our favorite bit for anybody who's new to Houselights, because I feel like we have to reintroduce it every so often. Like any sane movie fan, all 3 of us, we enjoy the work and respect the work of the late Lance Reddick. We all love him. We all think he was great. And so we've adopted a bit wherein we try to find where adding Lance Reddick to a film would improve it, would make it better, or just a role that he would do really well with. And so we've come to love this part. And so I will toss it to you first, Tristan. Where do you see Lance Reddick coming in to Universal Soldier, perhaps even, dare I say, to help improve the experience of Universal Soldier?
Orbach's role, I think, would be the easiest place to put him.
Yeah, Dr. Gregor. Yeah.
Yeah, Dr. Gregor, absolutely. It's one of those things where he'd pop up. I think it would improve that, because like when you're watching Universal Soldier, like why on earth is Orbach in this? Like he's such a recognizable person because of Law and Order. I mean, some people say Lumiere, but whatever. Those people are weirdos. But yeah, like with Law and Order, he's such a
Lovable
recognizable
weirdos.
Presence where you're just it's almost distracting. But with Lance Reddick, you'd go, oh, hey, that's Lance Reddick. That's cool. And so that's my answer. That's my answer.
Darren, where do you find Mr. Reddick?
No, it was actually my answer as well, Dr. Gregor, because I think Lance would really it would extend the suspense on, is this a friend or a foe? Because we kind of meet him, and then there's a little bit of that flashback that Van Damme has of like, oh, he was the actual doctor, which again was kind of confusing to me. Is it the doctor 20 years ago? Because he doesn't look 20 years younger. Or is it the doctor now that's turning him into the Universal Soldier? All that to say, I think Lance Reddick would do a great job in that, of delivering his performance in a way where you aren't sure if this guy's on our side. And that's good. I think that would add to the plot.
Well, I think it's funny that you both mentioned Orbach, because there was an alternate ending to the film, which was way more complicated. And I'm grateful that they didn't have, because like Dr. Gregor shows up. You find out Van Damme's parents were being played by actors, and it was all a trap to try to get them together. And it's like all a big mess. And
That sounds like a mess.
so Orbach had a much larger role originally, and then instead he winds up with a lot of it on the cutting room floor, a la Brando in 1978's Superman and Superman 2. But I toyed around with the idea of Dr. Gregor myself, and I also toyed around with the idea of replacing Edo Ross and having him be Colonel Perry, because I can buy Lance Reddick in that type of role. But honestly, I would swing for the fences, and I would say simply because it would add so much to it. Additionally, from a very interesting people from different backgrounds serving together, whether it's in Vietnam or elsewhere sort of thing, I would replace Dolph Lundgren with Lance Reddick. I would have him be Sergeant Andrew Scott.
That is a ballsy choice.
And layer on.
I mean, granted, we made him the lead last week, so
in the fight scenes, he's got a lot of reach, right? He's got a lot of height on Van Damme. And I think that he would also play that sort of cold, menacing, much more effectively than Lundgren would. And I would also buy him, I think, more at the moments when Scott takes command of everything. I would buy him more as a military leader rather than Dolph Lundgren with a gun, if that makes sense. Like I think that Lance Reddick could have the bearing of somebody who commanded troops behind him.
It gives me like Bill Duke's role from Predator as Mac, that just kind of cool cucumber. He's got the shaving with the safety razor, like that kind of a vibe.
Yeah. I think he would have brought something to the role that would have helped really improve it. But maybe I'm giving away too much about my own rating. So I will go ahead and I'll go first. And I will say that this is a step, Darren. It's not a step down. Is it a step up? Kind of, because it is a more coherent movie. It's obvious that he learns a little bit, at least about how to frame things and have movement and action progress in such a way that it makes sense where people are. I honestly think the fight on the truck sort of falls apart at one point where I'm like, wait, how did they get up there? What are they? There's a cliff now? Like what? Wait, and Dolph Lundgren, like
that is the exact moment where it falls apart. Like once we get to that scene, that's when as an audience member, you're like, I'm tired.
Yes. Well, and Lundgren coming back is just so dumb. Don't have Lundgren come back and then have Dr. Gregor show up and be like, no, we got to end you, but we're keeping the program, blah, 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 whatever. But in terms of ratings, it is a step forward for me. It's 2 stars. I didn't care for it in 1992. I don't particularly care for it now, but especially when comparing it with Moon 44, this is a director that I would at least feel is capable of doing better things than what I saw. And, maybe I'm a little disappointed that there wasn't more fight with Van Damme. Like, I don't know. I felt a little let down in terms of the amount of fisticuffs that he was involved in, but that's what it is. So 2 stars from me. And Tristan, I'll kick it over to you. Where do you rate on a scale of 5 Universal Soldier?
Yeah, I'm the same. Like I'm giving it 2 stars. I think this is a huge. What's crazy is that this is a huge step up from Moon 44 at 2 stars.
When you set the bar low enough, everything is up.
Right.
Like I wanted to give it. This is going to sound really petty, but I wanted to give it a 2.5, which in my mind is mediocre. 2 is bad. I wanted to like this movie. I wanted to go at it with a nostalgic lens and say like, oh yeah, this is 90s action. Like this is, at least it's it's a bad movie, but at least it's entertaining. And I think there were parts that were entertaining, but there was just way more bad that outshone the good. And there were so many moments when you're like I talked about, like when we get to the, get to the cliffside, you're just like, oh my God, I'm done. I'm tired. And, like when we get to the farmhouse and we see his parents and we're like, those people raised Jean-Claude Van Damme, the guy with the Brussels accent. Okay, sure. Okay. All right. Sure. Yeah. And they
His mom was French.
and they lampshaded it. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. There was, and also like that scene where he's completely naked and then like bends over and looks at Ali Walker through his legs. It's just like, that's not cute. It's not funny. It's just eye rolly. You're just like, oh my God, this is stupid. There's so many moments where it was just like, oh, this is stupid. And so like what sucks is that like the second scene with the dam is the best scene, and it's all downhill from there. And so, yeah, 2 stars.
Yeah. Darren?
Yeah, I think 2 stars across the board. I think it was an improvement from Moon 44, which we set at a 0 almost. But I will give him credit, though. I can't see him going from Moon 44 to Stargate. This needs to be in the middle. He's cutting his chops. He's getting bigger and better. He's pulling off action really well. He, actually has kind of lead stars and a lot of other crew, but like we kind of really smashed on Moon 44, it having at least any sort of lead character in that regard. So this is a little bit different. And while, and Jean-Claude is a name, he's working with names now, and he'll continue to do so. So yeah, I think it's a 2. It's a step up. Yeah, there's a little bit of nostalgia in there. Again, gotta love the Foldy truck. But am I going to watch it again next week, or will it be another 10 years? Probably more on the 10-year side, but that's okay.
Well, there we go. We have reconnected with Universal Soldier, and we are moving on to the next room in the House of Emmerich. And Darren, what is it that we're going to be stepping into next week?
Exactly. Whether it's going into a room or across the galaxy, next week we're covering 1994's Stargate here on Houselights.
Join the revolution. Join the Nerd Party.